I want to have a heart-to-heart. You know, in 2016, I didn't support Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him, didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I was told by not voting for Trump, I was voting for Hillary. Well, actually, he won without my support. And I'm glad I was wrong. And I've said that before, but I think in light of the Dobbs decision, it needs to be said again that we would not have gotten the Dobbs decision but for Donald Trump beating Hillary Clinton. And I was not a part of that. And make no claim to having been a part of that. I wound up supporting him because he proved me wrong. On a lot of issues, he allowed the conservative movement to lead him instead of him leading the conservative movement. And it was the conservative movement that picked Kavanaugh and Barrett and Gorsuch, and Donald Trump went along with it. It was Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society who vetted these people, along with other pro-lifers in the movement. Ben Sasse, in particular with Amy Coney Barrett, played a vital role in that. I'm glad I was wrong in 2016. My thinking in 2016 is that character counts, and I still believe that, and I still have fundamental problems with Donald Trump because of it. Character counts. And I think we set dangerous precedent when we put aside character. That doesn't mean I thought Hillary Clinton had better character. I didn't like either one of them. Where I was wrong in 2016 is I really assumed that people would go for Hillary Clinton and just didn't realize, like, I know I didn't like her, but I didn't realize everybody hated her. I mean, my gosh, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Andy, last night, was sitting on the front porch with me and said the moment he knew that Trump had a chance in 2016 was he was doing work in Philly during the Republican convention, and a bunch of these union guys, black and white, were saying they're voting for Trump. They hated Hillary so much. Look, good. I'm glad. I'm glad I was wrong. But, you know, because I was wrong, there were a couple of things. First, I just decided I would go third party. And in 2020, realized that it's always going to be a Republican or a Democrat. And at that point, given my choice between Donald Trump, who kept his promises and did a lot for the country, versus Joe Biden, I mean, Trump is obviously, you got to go with Trump. But also, beyond that, it forced me to exercise a little humility in how I see the world and politics. Having been in politics and the like, having missed 2016 so badly, it necessitated a level of recalibration. What did I get wrong and why did I get it wrong? And one of those things, obviously, was the level of antipathy for Hillary Clinton by so many people, but also Donald Trump's ability to bring into politics a lot of people who sat on the sidelines. Perhaps the most important thing 2016 taught me by being wrong was something I think many people on the left haven't figured out. I didn't jump to, in the same way in 2020, I didn't jump to stolen election. I didn't in 2016 think stolen election. Many of the very same people who think that 2020 was legit in 2016, they were the stolen election crowd. They thought Russia stole the election for Donald Trump. It was never true. Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate, and saying Russia stole the election for Trump was an easy way for Democrats to avoid having to note that they nominated the least popular politician in probably American history to be their nominee. A stolen election is just too easy. And, you know, there are a lot of people who say now, well, you got 2016 wrong. How can we believe you about 2020? Well, because, you know, I actually did the work to put in time to understand what was going on, but I still know the basics of the law, the Constitution, and the way elections work, which is why I can say that 2020 wasn't stolen. And for the same reasons in 2016, I didn't get Hillary Clinton would be so unpopular she would lose. In 2020, a lot of Trump supporters, I think, didn't get how unpopular he had become with a lot of people who really did decide the election based on mean tweets. And now look at what happened. A lot of people who decided that they would prefer Joe Biden for some semblance of normalcy than Donald Trump's daily drama. Well, now they've gotten inflation and gas prices and supply chain issues and the like. I still got problems with Trump. Don't get me wrong. I endorsed him, supported him, had on his family on the show in the 2020 campaign, said I would vote for him. And then I still think septuagenarian, he needs to step aside. If he ran again, he could legitimately only serve 4 more years when any other Republican on planet Earth could serve 8. And you're going to need 4 just to undo the damage of Biden, let alone reset. But in getting 2016 wrong, and this is the important point here, it forced me to sit down and say, how did I get it so wrong? I mean, I was convinced. The polling and everything, I was convinced. And here's what I came up with. I missed updated trends in American politics and the number of disaffected people who Donald Trump gave a voice to, who were willing to come into politics, who had sat on the sidelines, abused and betrayed by both political parties. I missed that, and I missed that everybody else hated Hillary Clinton as much as I did. And what I find in the conversations of the here and now is that while I did the work to try to figure out how I got it wrong, the media and the Democrats have never done that work. They have fallen back on stolen election 2016 stuff. They can't understand the same thing that I understood, that Donald Trump gave voice to a lot of people who felt marginalized by politics. Now, some of those people, let's just be honest, they felt marginalized by politics because they were victims of their own choices, couldn't accept responsibility, and Donald Trump sounded like he would come in and throw punches at all the people they hated who they blamed for their own life's failures, and those people will stay disaffected. We see a lot of those people very vocally in this anti-Brian Kemp stuff in Georgia and the like. They're just very bitter people. And Donald Trump gave them a hammer with which to go after their enemies, and he's lost, and they want to just keep hammering everybody they don't like, as opposed to trying to find a way to work within the existence of the parties. It's interesting that Republicans, after 2020, overwhelmingly identified as the party of Trump, and now they actually identify overwhelmingly as the Republican Party, with Trump secondary to them. There's an evolution going on, and I missed it in 2016 and have tried to pay attention to it since then. And in paying attention to the trend lines, what I'm more aware of than anything is how the Democrats have not. The Democrats have not been able to evolve. The Democrats look at 2016 as an anomaly, as a fluke, and I actually wound up looking at it after it was over as a precursor, a harbinger of things to come, a realignment of American politics like we haven't seen before. And I don't know how it'll shake out. I don't know how the parties will line up. Within the Republican Party, the strong nuclear force is the thing that holds an atom together, holds the nucleus of an atom together. And the strong nuclear force for the Republican Party has been Roe v. Wade. And the Supreme Court snuffed out that strong nuclear force on Friday. So you can expect the Republican Party to fracture in a variety of ways, from big government conservative to small government conservative to populist to nationalist, you name it. The Democrats will be galvanized to some degree, but there are fractures even there they refuse to see. The shift of Hispanic voters to the right, the shift of young black men to the right. They don't own the suburbs. The suburbs were just rented by them, and the suburbs are shifting back to the right. And they're so convinced that everyone is as pro-abortion as they are. They think that the case will matter more than anything else, and the data shows it won't, but they can't interpret the data soundly. The bottom line is that after 2016, I got that wrong, and I thought, you know what? Maybe shut up and do a little more listening and reading and researching and talking to people. And the Democrats, because of their absolute being convinced that they're always right, they're always in the majority, and everything history works in their favor, they never exercised any level of humility to shut up and figure out why they were wrong. And they've been missing everything ever since. 2018 was obvious a swing back to the Democrats because the party that holds the White House tends to lose. And they saw that as a reaffirmation of what happened. And they saw 2020 as a reaffirmation of what happened, as opposed to realizing that down ballot, all the Democrats did badly. Trump was the only one hurt. That's why so many Trump supporters say the election must have been stolen, because he was the only one hurt, as opposed to he was the only one hurt and all the Democrats were hurt because voters got tired of the drama, of the rioters on the left and of Trump's tweets. And that's why I think when 2022 comes and the Democrats are just adamant that abortion is going to win the day for them, are like, if you reassess, if you look, if you exercise some level of humility and just understand what you got wrong and try to understand why you got it wrong, what I think you will find is that the Democrats and the media are increasingly in such an impenetrable bubble, they've kind of lost the national pulse. And Donald Trump found the national pulse. And there are other people finding that pulse. Ron DeSantis is finding that pulse. A guy like Elon Musk is finding that pulse. It's not that hard to figure out what the national pulse is. And right now, a lot of that national pulse is just a seething resentment towards the elite and the institutions of the elite in this country, and people want to push back because the elite of this country have decided if the technocrats could just be in charge, everything would be okay. If the markets are in charge, well, the markets are powered by the decisions of the people, and the people are bad, so we can't let the markets be in charge. We have to let the technocrats be in charge. And unfortunately for them, the technocrats don't have as many votes as the people, and the people are in full revolt against the elite and the technocrats they put in charge. And if you understand that, you might be able to make sense of what's happening in the country.